recapping the first round of the college football playoffs.
We've reached the destination in the road to the college football playoffs, so we're back on the big mountain to break it down for you.
All right, we are in the books with round one of the college football playoffs. A lot of people have a lot of opinions on that. I think we'll give our opinions at the end, but we want to summarize every game. We'll start with Friday's game. Notre Dame versus Indiana University ends up 27-17. Notre Dame gets the win. I got to say, just the evening lead up to this, having all those people there with the, what is it called? What's the big thingamajig?
Touchdown Jesus?
Okay.
Yes.
In the background.
Yeah.
And it was
gorgeous.
Perfect way
Snow,
to...
the trees.
Perfect way to start this sucker off. So that was fantastic. And then, some of the stats here. Indiana ends up with 278 yards. Notre Dame, 394. Third downs, IU's only 4 of 12. And Notre Dame is 7 of 13, so over 50% for Notre Dame on third downs. That certainly helped them a lot. And the game, the score ended up a lot closer here towards the end because IU was able to score some points. It was, Notre Dame was in control for pretty much the entire game. Indiana trying to come back. They did get an onside kick, and they made it kind of interesting there at the end. But Notre Dame very much in control. I watched most of the game. My biggest takeaway here, Steve, and then I'd love to hear from you. Curtis Rourke was my biggest surprise. He just looked completely off his game. His throws weren't great. His accuracy wasn't great. He looked very uncomfortable. Yes, some of that was Notre Dame's pass rush. I get that. And I was also surprised how much Indiana decided to run the ball here, and maybe it was because Curtis he wasn't feeling it, and it was obvious he wasn't feeling it. So I was surprised how the offense for Indiana went in this game, from both the quarterback's play and how much they kind of mixed. They really were focusing on the run game a lot more. Maybe they just kind of had to. So what were your thoughts there, Steve?
Well, I totally agree. It was a beautiful setting, atmosphere. I mean, you couldn't ask for it. It was like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
And like you said, the build up to it and the fans coming in and the atmosphere, there was like some snow ahead of time. It was just gorgeous.
It was.
I think all college football fans, we were super excited, super pumped. Then we ended up getting a game that was kind of a little bit of a stinker of a game. Yeah. It is what it is. Notre Dame was clearly the better team. The game stayed pretty close. Like you said, Notre Dame was in control the whole time, but I don't know if it really got outside of like 2 scores for very much of the game.
Yeah.
Indiana came out. I mean, they kept shooting themselves in the foot. The penalties, just off the mark passes, strange decisions even by Signetti, who usually just has his finger on the pulse of the team. And incredibly, I mean, Notre Dame has a good, solid defense. Their pass rush was not. They were good, but they weren't like Ohio State was against Indiana in a previous game. I think a big part of, you're right, Curtis Rourke just looked off, but I think part of it was the position that the play calling was putting him in. They like to stay balanced, 50-50 run pass, but they were incredibly predictable. I mean, they had to run on first down 95%. Yes. And great, I get it. If you're going to be successful with the run, and that's going to set you up, but time again, Notre Dame was ready for it. They were shutting down that run. And so then you were putting Rourke in position where, he wasn't throwing until 3rd and long every single drive. And that's a terrible position to be in. Night game, weather, at Notre Dame, first playoff game for the whole team and for the quarterback. And again, Indiana continued to kind of shoot themselves in the foot and not play well. Notre Dame, it took them a little while to even with all those mistakes, their offense didn't really break loose until they had that big 98-yard run, which was awesome for them. I mean, it was a great play. It was exciting, I'm sure, in the stadium. It looked, the call was great. Yeah. Big, huge play, massive play. That kind of basically gave them the lead, gave them the momentum that they never gave up the rest of the game. But, again, Indiana continued to shoot themselves in the foot. And I will say, Notre Dame's offense after that point was not that impressive. It's kind of a take that I will take out of this game. I think if Indiana would have been playing any of the other favorite home teams, I think they would have gotten absolutely blown out. Notre Dame, I mean, at that point they had the lead, and Indiana's offense wasn't doing anything, so they continued to run the ball. They did what they needed to do to win, but they didn't really take control like some of the other teams did that we'll talk about. And that let Indiana hang in the game. Even as poor as they were playing, they were able to hang in the game. And so then at the end, they get a touchdown, they get a onside kick, get another score, whatever, and make it a little bit closer. And it ended up being the closest margin, 10 points of all the games. So disappointed for Cignetti, disappointed for Indiana, disappointed for Rourke to just kind of have a stinker of a game. Great win at home for Notre Dame. Beautiful presentation, great atmosphere. I wonder, I have... the narrative coming out of Friday night was, oh my God, Notre Dame is amazing. They just destroyed Indiana. Well, all the other games were more impressive on the blowout side. And so for me, when I compare them to the other playoff teams, if their offense their defense looked great, their offense maybe didn't look as prolific as some of the other offenses.
Yeah, and I would just say, the big story coming out of Friday night was just that. How horrible Indiana was. For those that wanted to crap on Indiana, crap on the Big Ten, crap on the CFP committee, all that jazz. That was the big narrative. They really shut up at the end of the day on Saturday, and we'll get to the reasons why. You haven't heard from many of them. And I'm just going to say, I think they got it right. I said it in the beginning. And you've got teams that are at the top of the nation. Your top 4 or 5 teams here, and I think Ohio State is one of them, and we'll get to them here. They should be controlling games. They're that much better than everybody else. So this whole narrative that Indiana shouldn't have been there, I don't buy into it. The line was 7.5. They lose by 10. Close enough game to me. And we're going to talk about another one that, in my opinion, close enough game to me. And let's get into one of the two on noon on.
One last thought, and I'll save most of my opinions on the narrative till the end. But I just want to say it was kind of disgusting Friday night.
It was bad.
Greg McElroy, one of the color analysts, an Alabama homer, SEC homer, ESPN corporate shill, going on using that 10-point win by Notre Dame to go on and on and on about poor Alabama, poor SEC. They should have had more teams. It was obvious because Notre Dame's beating Indiana. What's Notre Dame have to do with the SEC? Nothing. But obvious that Indiana shouldn't be in, and there should have been more SEC teams in, and not so many Big Ten teams. Blah blah blah. And he's supposed to be objective. I get it. He's color analyst. He's supposed to add some color commentary to that game. Not go on and on. And we saw this last year at ESPN. The anti-Florida State sentiment. This year, anti-anything SEC, and I thought it was gross, especially in the game. So I wanted to point that out.
For sure. Well, let's get to the noon game on Saturday. The Big Ten comes back with a vengeance here. Your Penn State Nittany Lions dominating SMU. They win 38-10. The yards here, Penn State had 325 offensive yards, SMU 253. Turnovers here, 3 for SMU and 1 for Penn State. And the Penn State defense just all over the quarterback here. I mean, he couldn't do much right because he didn't have time to do much right. I know we were texting back and forth on that. Third downs here, Penn State 6 of 13. So right there, close to 50% where you want to be. And SMU 3 of 14 on third down. A lot of that's because they were third and long. I mean, they weren't getting many yards, and so they really were struggling to get first downs here. Steve, you were at this game. I know it was mighty cold. I'm glad that you've thawed out. Let's talk about the game. What did you see?
It took me about 24 hours to thaw out. It was, so we get to the game. It's 19 degrees in the morning. It gets up to 24, a balmy 24.
That's right, yes.
During the game, but just steady winds. I mean, just a miserable cold environment. However, awesome game environment. If anyone saw the pictures, 106,000. The crowd was better than I expected. Wasn't quite a normal whiteout or normal Ohio State, but almost like 95% of that. Just a great atmosphere. The crowd was loud. They packed the stands. Really cool to see a home playoff game in Happy Valley. It was awesome to be there, other than my toes were freezing a bit in my face. But good thing I'm growing my Santa Claus beard out. All right. But yes, great atmosphere. And honestly, this was a defensive battle. Even though you see Penn State scoring, what was it, 38 points,
38, yep.
wasn't really because of their offense per se. Their running game was okay, but it was more about the Penn State defense just absolutely shutting down and bewildering the SMU offense, specifically their quarterback. Now, I will say, and we were texting, the dude was shifty as heck. Like, with a non-athletic quarterback, Penn State could have had 10 to 15 sacks. I mean, easily. The way they were just exploding off the line, getting around. There was a play, Abdul Carter, and they're showing this all around the internet. Abdul Carter was had a guy around his neck,
Yes.
like holding, strangling, put him in a chokehold, drug the guy, and still got a sack on the quarterback. The other side, Denied Dennis Sutton was getting through there. They were getting penetration every point of the line and just making the quarterback run for his life the whole time. I kind of felt bad for the guy. He couldn't hear, he couldn't see, he couldn't do anything. He had no time on any play and just kept throwing it. Putting it in bad spots because he had to.
A couple of them were really bad spots.
Yes, really bad spots. And I went back and watched each one of them, and you can see who, the first interception he's trying to throw, and he's really about 6 inches off of his guy's hand.
Right.
But because he's 6 inches high and to the right, it goes right to a Penn State defender. Right. Another play, I think he was trying to get it to a guy, and he just short-armed it when he's on the run, running for his life. But that was the story, was Penn State's defense putting pressure on the SMU quarterback, making him turn the ball over. 2 pick sixes. One, Tony Rojas, just a great, awesome run back, athletic run back, shows why he was the offensive player of the year in high school in Virginia. His senior year was a stellar running back. He gets a pick six all the way back. Penn State's defense was fantastic. The Penn State offense didn't really do that much. They did have a good running game. I think the Singleton and Allen put together 200 yards together. Or very close to it. So, again, Penn State didn't really show much of an offense, kind of similar to Notre Dame, in the cold weather that we saw later on that night from Ohio State.
Right.
But that defense was just absolutely amazing. And here's the thing with SMU. SMU played through the season. They earned their way onto the field. Honestly, I think, a team coming from Dallas and playing in that atmosphere. I am born and raised in Pennsylvania. I was stationed in Michigan before here. And it was miserable for me to be in the stands. I cannot imagine playing in that football game, trying to throw the ball, catch the ball. Yeah. It was just absolute craziness. And for a team from Texas, honestly, I think a lot of teams from the South would have fared the same way. If you get an Alabama, maybe an Ole Miss, whoever, it's got to be tough. And then to play in that environment in front of 100,000 fans. So to me, I think they deserved their spot in the game, but they were the lower seed. They had to come play at Penn State, and we see that trend continue over the first 2 games. The home team just being a little bit better, a little more dominating, and taking advantage of the home field.
And Penn State, their first 2 scores were defensive scores. Yes. They actually didn't have to score after that. Their defense scored more points than SMU scored. Yes. And I think that can continue for Penn State. Their defense is that good. They could be outscoring teams just from pick sixes and all that kind of jazz. We'll see how Boise State can handle the defense of the Nittany Lions, but it will be a very big test for Boise State. All right, third game here. We had Texas versus Clemson. 38-24. Texas pulls this out. But I'll tell you, in the second half, there were multiple times where, Clemson pulls within a score, then Texas pulls back ahead, and Clemson was right there to do it again and kind of cover because I did take them. It was anywhere 11.5 to 13.5 was kind of the line. This was the biggest line of the weekend for the college football playoff. And yes, Texas covered, and we'll use 13.5. They covered by half a point, or if you use the 11.5 by 2.5. Same type of deal with Indy versus Notre Dame. And this was a competitive game. I watched the second half of this. I wasn't able to watch the first. But with Clemson coming back here, it was interesting. I was very interested to see how well they were going to handle it. I don't think Texas honestly made a great case for themselves. That's not a knock on the Tigers. But as good as everybody thinks Texas is, I'm still a naysayer. I was a naysayer coming into this. I still am. I think they play one of these top 5 teams, another top 5 team in the nation. I don't think they have enough to beat them. We've seen what they did against Georgia. I'll give you some stats here. Texas, 494 yards, so plenty of offense in this game, obviously. Clemson here with 412 offensive yards. Third down, 6 of 12 for Texas and 3 of 12 for Clemson, but they hung around. They kept it close. Klubnik here was phenomenal. I mean, he was the one kind of driving those chances to come back in this game. He ends 26 of 43 for 336 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Ewers, he just did what he did. 17 of 24, 202, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Nothing real great for a guy that everybody's like, and you had said it early on, potential Heisman winner here. And, again, he's not bad, don't get me wrong, but he's not a Heisman winner. He's not I would fair to say he's not even really a game changer. He's a game manager maybe, but I'll tell you what, this game did not make me change my mind on Texas. A good team, not an elite team. I still will continue to say that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, again, similar to Notre Dame and Penn State, Texas did what they needed to do. They got out to a lead. They ran the ball really, really, really well against a Clemson defense that's maybe, I don't know, is really good against the run.
Sure.
I think this was Texas's best rushing game all season. And that's really my thoughts on Texas. They did what they had to do. They got out to a lead. They held on to the lead. They ran the ball really well. I agree with what you say about Ewers. He didn't show much. I don't know if Arch Manning got into the game or not.
Well, he did at the end, and then they fumbled.
Okay, yeah.
When they were trying to finish the game with a 4th and 1 or something, and bloop, they fumbled the ball.
Yeah. I want to talk more about Clemson than Texas.
Yep.
And again, the narrative of, they don't deserve to be here. Well, you know what? They played their way in.
Yep.
They won their conference championship game. And that has to matter. Like the games, not only during the regular season, but the conference championship games, they won their conference championship. They won their spot, and they played well. They gave Texas a heck of a game. I agree. Cade Klubnik, real good, especially as they were coming back.
Yes, right.
And sometimes you see that when there's a big lead, then the other team just has to throw the ball. And he did what he needed to do to get them back in the game.
Yep.
Ultimately, Texas was able to seal it. But I think Clemson showed off really well, and they showed. To me, they had already showed they deserved to be in the game by winning the ACC championship. Mm-hmm. But I think in the game they also showed it by putting up one of the more respectable displays of the weekend.
Totally agree. So let's get to the last one, the biggest slobber knocker of the weekend. Hold on to your seats, SEC fans, because you got demolished. Tennessee 17, Ohio State 42, and Tennessee was only 17-42 because Tennessee got garbage time points there at the end. Yards here, 473 for the Buckeyes, 256 for the Vols. Third down conversions, Ohio State 4 of 9. So they only had to convert, or they only even had to try for third down 9 times. That tells you how good they were on first and second down, able to eat up yards because they end with 473. So they're getting a ton of yards early in their down situation. And Tennessee here 6 of 16. So not great for them. We talked about the quarterback situation. Mm-hmm. I said about, I picked some teams, and this was one of them. Based on the quarterback play, I went with the Ohio State Buckeyes because I thought Howard was going to get the job done, and boy, did he ever. He ends 24 of 29, 311 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. And of course, I don't have his running game stats in here, but he let that show very well too in this game. He's able to run the ball, big dude, get those yards. Nico, as you said, he's young, and we'll see how he does. He didn't handle it very well. 14 of 31 for 104 yards. Didn't have an interception, but he also didn't have a touchdown. He just really struggled. Ohio State, they came out in this game, and it was like a bomb went off in the first quarter. Yes. Tennessee couldn't do anything right. Ohio State could do everything right. They got the crowd in it from the drop. They just ran away with it. And it was interesting. And one more thing, and then I want to hear from you, obviously, was it early on, somebody had texted out or tweeted out that, hey, it looks like there's about 35% Tennessee Vol fans here. And I was anxious to see how much orange I was going to see in the stadium. I'll be honest, I'll give the Buckeyes fans credit. Yeah, there was orange there, and we all knew there was going to be. There's a lot of freaking Ohio State. It certainly wasn't a 65-35 split in the stadium. It wasn't even close to that. The Buckeye fans show up. They get the dub for their team, and my goodness, Ohio State looked phenomenal. And, of course, the weather had something to do with that. Very cold. The only thing I'll just say is Tennessee's trying to play mind games, or they come out without shirts on. Yeah. They're doing their warm-up, and I'm going, oh, man, that's something that can super backfire on you guys. And my gosh, I'm not saying it's the reason they got dominated. It didn't help the situation at all. Don't play games in somebody else's house like that. Just gives fuel for the fire for them. That was a bit ridiculous.
Some of the SMU guys did that too, and trying to show how tough they are. It's just dumb.
It's dumb.
Yeah.
What are you getting out of that? I don't know what they're getting out of that.
Not a damn thing.
Anyway, all right. What do you think of the game, Steve?
Well, first of all, I think Ohio State played, and I've seen every game Ohio State's played this year. This was Ohio State's very best game of the year. They saved their best game of the year for the first round of the playoffs, which, I mean, if you could do that, that's great.
Pretty good.
Get into the playoffs, save your best game of the year. They were awesome. They were amazing. I really thought coming into this game, I thought there would be some hiccup hangover from that Michigan game.
Right.
And honestly, this Tennessee team is built very similar to Michigan. And I really thought that Ohio State was going to come out, try and do the same thing, just line up and power run, like the game plan they ran against Michigan. Well, they absolutely did not. They came out throwing the ball. Will Howard was fantastic. They had Chip Kelly and Ryan Day had the absolute perfect game plan against Tennessee. And they actually used their athletes, which I thought was amazing. I mean, that the Smith, I think it's Jeremiah Smith, he's uncoverable.
He's awesome.
He is amazing. Yeah. He is arguably the most talented player in college football. I think next year it will be inarguable that he is the best. Next year he will be the best player in college football. He could go to the NFL right now if not for the rules that they have. He's going to have to wait 2 more years. I can't wait till he's gone and out of the Big Ten. But he was amazing. They got the ball to him. Will Howard distributed the ball. He executed the game plan perfectly. Yep. Everything about Ohio State, their offense, their defense, I mean, they get an A+. They were the most impressive team of the entire weekend. So I thought they would have a hiccup like Michigan's coming off the Michigan game and play similar to that. Boy, was I wrong, because they were absolutely amazing. And I need to learn on my own that you got to take away that when you're judging Ohio State and Michigan, you got to wipe away the Ohio State Michigan game, because it has no bearing on any of the other games. It's just such an intense rivalry, and obviously Michigan is in Ryan Day's head. Yep. But when they're playing someone else, Ryan Day, Chip Kelly can cook up the perfect game plan. And literally, as we've said all year, Ohio State has the most talented team on paper.
Yes.
I think even more talented than Oregon, more talented than Texas, Georgia, anybody else. On paper, they are the best team. They didn't play like that against Michigan.
Right.
But today, or this weekend against Tennessee, they absolutely did. I do want to say a few things about Tennessee. Nico, he didn't have a great game throwing the ball. There was the pass rush, and the Ohio State secondary was really good.
Yep.
So it wasn't great throwing the ball, but he did put this offense on his back, running the ball. That was really the only offense they had going. I don't know what his total numbers were, but he was the only reason they were kind of getting some offense, keeping drives alive. He was the only thing going on offense. I think their starting running back got knocked out early. Their best wide receiver got knocked out early. I saw him going to the tunnel. And then their one of their best wide receivers, that Dante Thornton, that they paid millions of dollars in the NIL portal. The dude, the entire game, as they're getting their butts kicked and Nico's trying to do something, he's tapping his helmet trying to get out of the game. So the skill position players on offense for Tennessee were absolute no-shows. They were either getting hurt or just didn't show up, didn't do anything. Whereas for Ohio State, the guys, the dudes, the skill players, those 5 stars played like 5 stars, played amazing. They executed the game plan. And Ohio State, I thought, was just amazing. And I think even though they lost to Oregon, looks like they're the favorites in this rematch with Oregon coming up.
I'm not surprised that they're the favorites. I'll be honest with you. I'm not. That does not surprise me at all. So let's just give our overall thoughts on first round. Seedings, where we're headed next. What are your opinions here with the first round of 12 that we've had in a college football playoff?
I thought it was great. My first thought and my most overwhelming thought is, holy shit, it was awesome having home playoff games on campuses. Notre Dame, Ohio State, Texas, it was kind of cool, the atmosphere, but Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, awesome atmosphere, and maybe because I'm from the north, that northern, the frozen tundra, the snow, I mean, just beautiful. Even like Notre Dame, the snow coming down with the trees and touchdown Jesus, just all that. The atmosphere is great. I'm glad they finally did this. They need to go do this going forward, as many games at home as possible. But people need to understand that home field advantage is legit, especially I would say the northern teams hosting a southern team. Right. I mean, it's just the weather. It's just human factor. I thought all of that was awesome. I think overall the committee got it right. too many people were trying to judge, especially Friday night, because Notre Dame looked a lot better than Indiana. They beat them by 10 points, and you have all these SEC homers and the ESPN corporate shills. Oh, blah, blah, blah. The Big Ten sucks. Everybody sucks but us. The playoff should be, 12-team playoff should be 10 SEC teams and 2 other teams because we're just so much better.
Right.
It was absolutely ridiculous. And again, I'm calling out Greg McElroy. He was just a complete douchebag Friday night, I thought. Kirk Herbstreit embarrassed himself throughout the weekend, just shilling for ESPN. And it's kind of a dumb atmosphere or a dumb situation where we're in, where one network has the SEC and they control almost everything that has to do with the college football playoff. We did have some games on TNT,
right?
But what I didn't fully understand is how much that's just basically ESPN on TNT. TNT, I think, had maybe a little bit of their own pregame stuff.
Their pregame was the same guys, the same desk guys that were with the Mountain West.
Okay, all right.
It was I'm drawing a blank.
I caught a little bit
of that. A couple
of
receivers.
Yes.
And it was the exact same desk guys as the Mountain West guys.
But you could tell the music and the production, and then the announcers are all ESPN employees banging that ESPN corporate drum. And I thought they embarrassed themselves. I think it's ridiculous. You had Paul Feinbaum and Lane Kiffin, who's a coach in the SEC, tweeting and making asses of themselves all weekend. Overall, I mean, this is what you expect. The 4 home teams, who were the better teams, they were the higher seeds. They're playing at home in December, 3 of them in weather. They won. They dominated in the biggest blowout. And I actually like the Tennessee Volunteers. I think they're on a good track to get going forward. 10-2. They went 10-2 this year. Very respectable in the SEC. But they were blown out the biggest. This was everyone's crying Alabama should have been in. Well, Tennessee beat Alabama this year, and Tennessee got their asses kicked by Ohio State. I have a buddy who's a Volunteer fan. He texted me and said, "This looks like Tennessee is like a high school team, and Ohio State is an NFL team, and they're not even in the same world." And that's really what it looked like to me. And that's the thing is you have too many idiots who wanted to make big impressions, make big statements based on one game. But when you look at the product, all 4 games, I think the committee got it right. They let the teams who earned it on the field get in, and some of them lost, but that's okay. You're going to have those. When in a 4-team playoff, you had 50% of the games were blowouts, double digits. Well, this one, 4 of 4 were double digits, but it's not that much different than a 4-team playoff. I thought they got it right. I thought the games were awesome. I think they should keep doing what they're doing, honestly. We just need ESPN people and SEC people, honestly, to shut the freak up.
And I don't understand the reverse of that. I mean, did they want the underdogs to win? Is that what they wanted?
They just wanted a reason to cry.
Because, I mean, are you wanting SMU, an ACC team, to beat a Big Ten team? Are you wanting Clemson, an ACC team, to beat your glorious number 2 SEC team in Texas? Or you want, I don't get it. I agree, it makes no sense. I think the home field stuff should happen again here in the quarters, because I think Boise should have a significant advantage playing on the blue in Boise. That to me, they've earned that, and they should be given that opportunity. For Oregon versus Ohio State, that should be in Oregon. They've earned that. It should be at Autzen Stadium. I know they already played there once. They should have to play there again because they've earned that right to do that. So I don't know if, and again, it's more the northern versus southern thing. I don't know if the Arizona State and Georgia games are as different in terms of the elevations and but the home fields there are great too. I mean, it's not a knock on the Bulldogs fans. Of course you'd want to, the Bulldogs want to have a home game.
Yes, that would be
absolutely.
Awesome.
The Sun Devils would love to have a home playoff game. They were picked last in the Big 12 for crying out. They're being, I hate to say being robbed because it was set up this way. I really think we should look at the quarters being home field advantage as well, or home teams as well, because they've earned that right. These they got the bye, which is absolutely fantastic. They should also get home field. The other thing I want to say is Kirk. He was on saying it should be the 12 best teams. I don't understand why we don't have the 12 best teams, and I responded via X to his comments. I'm like, that's not the way it's set up, you knucklehead. You take the top 5 conference champions. That's who gets in first. The top 5 conference champions gets in first. It don't matter what their rank is. They're the top 5 conference champions. And then you have 7 at-large teams. That's how this is created. It's not created to be the 12 best teams, and then even if it was, everybody's opinion on the 12 best teams is gonna be different anyway. So shut the hell up.
Yeah, they don't play each other. They don't play the same amount of conference games. I agree with you. And Kirk, he basically wants it to be a dog and pony show. Let's not even play the games. Let's have a poll in August, and we'll pick the top 12 teams, and nothing else matters.
Yeah.
I think it's really stupid. He embarrassed himself.
He did.
And I really think the entire ESPN, this was supposed to be a celebration of college football, and all ESPN did, every one of their employees just pissed and moaned all weekend. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And while we're watching awesome football games that, they end up being blowouts, but still, those teams had a chance. I guarantee you, Clemson, they're thankful they had their chance.
Yep.
SMU is thankful they had their chance.
Yep.
And I know other teams like Boise, they're waiting next week for their chance.
Absolutely.
You win it on the field, you play on the field, you play your way in, and once you're there, you have a chance on the field instead of just some poll somewhere. That's how sports are supposed to be played out on the field, not in a poll in August.
Correct. I'll leave it at that. We're going to have our live pick episode Thursday evening. We're going to continue to pick the bowls, and we're going to pick the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. It's going to be super exciting, and we hope you can join us for that live episode Thursday at 8:30 Eastern. With that, make sure you like this episode, subscribe if you like our content. We'll see you all next time on the Big Mountain.